The balance between my school life, my personal life, and also work, juggling all three, I found it to be very hard and demanding. School is I go to school full time and also work part time, so I have little time for myself. I have a girlfriend as well, and so between her work and school, my day is pretty much packed all the time, and I have little time to honestly relax. Sometimes I get little sleep because I'm up all night studying. For instance, this week, for instance, is midterm, so last week, all week, Monday through Thursday, I'm up studying. Even on weekends, I have to sacrifice time and stuff like that just to get stuff done and be successful.
All right, that was Marquise, and he was talking about the balance. And welcome back to Success and Equity on BCTV. We're with Chris Tyner this morning. That was Marquise, Chris, talking about how tough it is when you're in college to balance work quite often, your studies, your personal life, sleep. It is difficult, but I would ask you, you're an educated man, Chris. Was it worth it?
Was it worth it going to school?
Yeah, the struggle. You and I, before we came on the air, we were talking about the struggle, about how I used to live in horrible accommodations. A single bedroom apartment in Oildale where I had to learn how to talk to my neighbors. And I remember one evening, I had several jobs at the time, but I woke up one night at about 2:30 in the morning, and these people were partying like nuts upstairs. Frustrated, put on a hooded sweatshirt, walked outside, knocked on the door. I said, excuse me, I understand you were all having a good time, and the thing is, I need to get up in the morning, kiss my ass, get off my porch. All right. So I go back downstairs, and I'm stewing, and I can't go back to sleep, and I come back out, and I scream something much more in the common vernacular with expletives, and they were like, "Oh, sorry, brother, no disrespect," and turned their music down, and I got to go to sleep. I paid my bills and did my grocery shopping at a liquor store. Oh, it was super. I'm glad that there were comforts later on, but you said that the struggle, that experience of going to college and having to juggle it all, I mean, it's crazy sometimes. You said it's part of
the journey, yeah, and the it makes the rewards that much sweeter. When you experience the struggle and you know what that's about. Because you have to have a strong motivation to get through it. I'm talking about an education and to keep going and going and going. And these days it's even more important, I'd say, than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. When we were doing it. To press on, and the students are more challenged than ever and more demands than ever on their time. But the ones who have things happening are the ones that make things happen. And especially in the arts, I've found that the students who go the farthest are the ones who create their own opportunities and find their own pathway, and they have the motivation to make it happen.
Well, and I want to ask you about this. I know sometimes I would tell people when I was a student, like, what are you going to do when you graduate? And I'd be like, well, I'm a writer. Like, I'm going to write. And they were like, oh, good luck with that, dude. Yeah. and I want to call a few of them sometimes and be like, don't worry, I'm okay. Things have worked out all right. I'm not starving. In fact, I could use a little weight loss. Have you ever found that it's opened non-traditional doors for you? And you're like, well, I'm a professional recording artist.
Well, I'm not a professional recording artist. But,
well, have you not made?
I make music that I like.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, the most of the opportunities I've had have come through connections that I've made in school. In undergraduate and in grad school. People that I made friends with, that I learned to collaborate with, will call later on, looking for somebody to play on this little track or somebody to help arrange something over here. Those connections are important. So I always tell my students, if you're looking to continue on with your music study, put yourself in a situation and environment that's going to be productive for you beyond graduation, right? And do your best to collaborate and to make connections with the other students in your program, because those are the people who will be your colleagues later on, and calling you for opportunities, teaching gigs, musical gigs, performing things.
It's absolutely true. Like so many things in life are a relationship business, but the arts most certainly are. We're trotting out our act. Our act is us in many instances, and people need to trust in that and have confidence in it and know it, and that's as you said, that happens in
Right.
that networking that happens in college.
It begins there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, Chris, you say you're not a professional recording artist. I would hedge as a PR guy and say, well, you have released professional recordings. Thus.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. That's someone who that's strictly what they do. But teaching, the fact that you finished school, it's let you make a life out of music, has it not?
Yeah, yeah. It's allowed me. I mean, if you're going to be creative and you're going to make original art, you need to find a way to supplement that somehow. In order to make it work. So a lot of musicians will do commercial work, and then they'll have their creative projects on the side. For me, I mean, teaching was more important to me than doing commercial work. So I decided that the creative life is central, and the teaching is sort of an outgrowth of that, an extension of what I do creatively. And it works. I mean, it's difficult, and it's definitely a struggle sometimes to juggle it all. But you find a way to make it happen. I've got a family too. I've got 2 kids, and things get complicated. But I want my family and my kids and my students to see that somebody who's passionate about something and dedicated to that creativity and to putting it forward, that it's possible to make it happen, and find a way to do it.
Yeah, and the story, I mean, not that your story hasn't ended by any stretch, but you're at a pretty good juncture in your story. Like you said, you have children. You started out in Wasco, and, we've all heard people, I call them the LAs. They feel like they can't make good art until they get to LA or New York, and it's like, stop, stop, stop.
Right. I tell my students that's a myth. The idea that, you would home grow something in a community like this, and then in order to make it real, you have to go to New York or go to LA. And a lot of times what happens is that you get to one of those places and then you starve yourself until, you eventually have to move home. And I realized early on when I started touring, after I finished school and started touring with my own bands a few years after that, I'd go around the country and play different spots, and people would ask where I'm from. I say, well, I'm from Bakersfield. I live in Bakersfield. And they would almost have to feel like they had to apologize to me.
You're like,
oh,
no,
I'm sorry.
no,
I mean, it must be terrible. And I felt like, no, there's a lot going on here. I live here for a reason. I love this town, and there's creative people here. There's incredible people here. My teachers were incredible. I feel like I didn't miss out on anything. And so, my thing has been to try to, create a scene and document that scene. That's what I've done with my record label, Epigraph Records. We've put out albums that are live recordings of concerts, of incredible musicians who have come through town.
And we do get
and local musicians that make incredible music. Yeah. It's, the scene is what you believe it is, right? So, if people complain that there's nothing to do in Bakersfield.
Oh my gosh, I know exactly what we're talking about right
Right.
now. I'll go ahead and throw it out there, Nick Bilardis. Nick is a talented guy. Nick is a good writer. Nick's from Kern County, but he really feels like there's some scene police out there that are really preventing things from taking off, and I'm with you. I know a bunch of great stand-up comedians. I know a bunch of really good writers, and like you said, it's the scene is what you make it. It can be in somebody's garage. It could be on the
Right.
smoking deck of a bar. I mean, there's a lot of different incredible little hives of creativity happening, especially
There's incredible
at
art that happens
College.
here. Yeah, and I hear this repeatedly. I produce a concert series where I bring musicians in, creative musicians and jazz musicians who are on tour. We catch them when they're in between the Bay Area and Los Angeles, and over and over and over, I'm always told that the audiences in Bakersfield are more interested in what's going on. They're more enthusiastic about the music they're hearing, and usually the turnout is much better. We're talking small events because it's creative jazz music,
Yeah, but
So we're
still.
not selling out the Rabobank Arena or
Right.
anything, but to get 100 people in a room listening to a jazz group from New York City, and then they go to LA and play for maybe 20 people who are mostly disinterested and tired from the commute, to get. LA's great, but
I guess. Is it? I don't know.
There's-
I have a buddy who loves driving, and he's like, oh, dude, I get to spend 3 hours in my car every day, and I live in Sherman Oaks.
Right.
And I was like, God bless you. Go and sin no more. Like, you're living the dream, I guess. That sounds horrible to me, though.
Yeah, well, you end up where you want to be,
That's-
right? And
yeah.
but make something of the scene and contribute, make a contribution, and don't just try to tear down the people who are who are doing it, right?
That's right. I realized that you and I both commented on the same blog post a couple years ago. I didn't realize that until I heard what you were saying about like, well, time out now. Let's talk about the scene. We'll actually, Chris, I'd love to have you on again to talk about that and talk about just what a creative scene is, what a salon is, what you said. We will elaborate next time you're on about incubating yourself with other people who are creative minded and stuff. I think that was a very interesting point. His name is Chris Tyner. He teaches at Bakersfield College, and I think that anybody would be well served to get some education from the guy. We're really glad to have him on today. Coming up next again, one of the most interesting women I've ever met in my life on the Bakersfield College campus. She has a story that's going to knock your socks off. And just like Chris Tyner, she has chosen to be in Bakersfield. That's coming up next on Success and Equity.
Greatest struggle, let's see. Well, there's a lot of greatest struggles. I think right now it's just trying to juggle school and, work, actually paying, to come here. I take the bus here, so the bus schedule, my bus only comes every hour, so like getting here on time and everything and going home and, just like money, I guess, is like the biggest issue. I don't have a job right now. I keep looking for one. I apply everywhere, haven't heard anything back, and so I think that's like my biggest struggle is money.